I loved it because you could speed down the highway, and I'm a big car guy. I mean, you could speed down the highway. The cops weren't pulling anybody over. No radar was going off. It was like you're driving in an apocalypse. Nobody's out. And I loved it. And now all of a sudden when traffic is starting to come back, I'm like, God damn, like, I don't like this. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, welcome everybody. It's Kris Roglieri, president and founder of Commercial Capital Training Group, with our weekly podcast here, Entrepreneurs in Finance. And this episode, I am very proud to introduce a very energetic and what I call a quintessential entrepreneur getting into this business, Brandon Bartoli of Prosper Firm.
Hey, Kris.
Hey, Brandon.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
It feels like I should say long time no see, even though you were here about probably 4 or 5 months ago, but it seems like so long last time I actually got to see you in person.
I know, it's crazy. Probably the whether it's the quarantine or the lockdown, probably feels like it's ancient. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was just, I think, mid to end of February is whenever I came in and joined you guys and got to know you and learn from you. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So you attended our February 2020 class?
Correct.
And, just so you know, that was the last live in-person class that we had, was your class.
So crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And then after that, we were forced to go virtual, which we're obviously doing successfully. But you were the last live class. So, and I think that's a good way to start out this interview is how have you been doing? I mean, so think about it. Here you are coming into this business, right? I think you purchased our legacy package. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Purchased our legacy package. So, $100,000, it's a lot of money to spend on opening up an opportunity.
Right.
And you went through training, right? So, talk about training, just training itself. What was your experience going into training? I know you had attended with a family member, I believe, correct?
Yeah. So with my background, it wasn't super paralleled to what we do here. I had no background in banking, finance, anything like that. So coming into the training, I just had a very open mind. Having more of a consulting background, I am pretty good with picking things up quickly because, it's like drinking from a fire hose coming to a training like that, where like there's a lot. You go through so much stuff in like a 7-8 day straight time period.
Yeah.
So it was like really good info, but it was a lot. So going into that training, I really just tried to mentally prepare and like free my brain up from like just everything else I had going on so that I could focus 100% in on the training, because I knew it was going to be a lot, but it was even more than I expected. So, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, what amazed me, we'll talk about this, learning where you are now in such a short time, but what impressed me is you're young. And that's something we don't see a lot around here, right? Yeah. I've been doing this now for almost 12 years, month after month, training people, getting them into the industry and then serving them. You have youth behind you, and that's so refreshing to see, to have younger people get into this industry. But I remember in class, you sat way at the back. If you remember, we had 2 tables. We had to bring in an extra table because the class was so full, and you were way in the back. And so I felt like I didn't really get a chance to talk to you because the table was so damn long and I was way at the other end. But
right.
I just remember my vision of you is you kept your head down. You asked pretty good questions. You took a lot of notes, and you weren't like the loud type. You weren't, always kind of trying to answer a question. You asked important questions, but and that's just your demeanor. And God, who would have ever thought you'd be where you are today, which we'll talk about soon. But I admire that about you. It was.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I
Yeah.
am. I'm definitely more of an introvert by nature. I'm more of a, if you take those different personality tests, I'm probably the observer, that I
Mhm.
like to soak in my surroundings, and then I will ask very pointed, direct questions. Like, I'm not afraid to ask questions, but I don't like to just ask a question for the sake of being heard. So yeah, so that you've captured me perfectly.
Well, as you can imagine, doing trainings every month and
Right.
full classes, I've come across all types of people,
I
uh,
bet.
arguably good or bad. I'm not gonna say anything because everybody's is gonna watch this, but I've dealt with all personality types. But it's always interesting of the people who, like, kinda keep their head down, ask a few questions. They're good questions, but, they don't draw attention to themselves, if that makes sense.
Totally. Absolutely.
That's what I remember of you guys. Um, so, okay, uh any trepidations of coming through training before you arrived, or were you pretty confident that, we actually had an office and we weren't in our basement somewhere with our underwear trying to scam people?
I know you always start off a lot of the trainings that way. I think just trying to, like relax people that this is a very professional place, and you've came to the right place and everything. But I didn't really have a lot of those reservations, to be honest, mainly because I did my due diligence. Like, I did as soon as my mom recommended you guys. She's the one that's found you online, and I had been in the process. I just left corporate, and I was in the process of doing a ton of research to figure out what franchise do I want to start. That's what I originally wanted to do, as a franchise, mainly because it's like very duplicatable. There's already processes in place.
Right.
And then I found you guys where it's different, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So long story short, after I did research on you, the collection of companies you have, I was able to find, just from research, a lot of different things out there that gave me confidence that, this is very legitimate. And as honestly, as soon as I talked to, some of your folks and got some basic information, I was pretty confident pretty quickly that this was going to be a good thing.
So let me get this straight. You actually didn't find us, your mother did.
Correct. And she actually found the digital marketing side,
Okay.
uh, which is crazy. And then I did enough research to find the commercial lending side, which I was more attracted to. So,
Uh,
kind of
okay.
crazy how that came together.
So, I take it, you owe your mother a lot. You have to give her like a really good birthday present, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, she's awesome. She really is. She's always been a big supporter, and even more than that, an advocate. And that's an example where it's one thing just to support somebody, but then she's actively going out doing research, figuring out what we could do as a family. And yeah, they're great.
Yeah, that's terrific. So okay, you went through training, and obviously it's intense, right? If I think that's one of the best words to describe what we do,
For sure.
and you could probably attest to that. So tell me about, as you were going through training, you know, what were the thoughts going through your head as each day progressed, and if you could remember, we learned a whole different product segment each and every day. What was going through that whole week?
Well, probably at the end of each day, I had a headache, just because overload, right?
Yeah.
But no, like as soon as training was over, I legitimately did have like a headache almost every day, because that's like I'm very honed in. I'm not distracted. Like, I'm constantly, for the whole 8, 9, 10 hours, I'm locked in,
Mhm.
which actually does create a lot of that stress, but in a good way. So what I'll do is I'll decompress afterwards and reflect every single night as to, what did I learn? How am I piecing this together? Because again, this isn't just this cookie cutter model that, like a franchise where you have to do one specific thing. There's a lot of creativity and flexibility with it.
Right.
So, which I like, because I'm a creative by nature. So I like to create and design things. So that's where every single night was just adding more and more pieces to the puzzle of, how am I going to build this for my company, for my future, for my legacy, what I'm trying to put together. How does this fit into to my skill sets, my background, and my network? All those different factors I'm trying to piece together of, like, what's my niche going to be?
Right.
Where do I hone in? And day after day, that vision started to clarify. So it was really, really helpful as things went on.
It's funny you say that, because I think everybody goes through that same journey, but the end result could be different for everybody, right?
Totally.
And of course you hear the stories coming in here, which, you hear about the Terry Lukers, you hear about some of our, what we call our superstars, who have kind of
Yeah.
have been here before you and made their own version of what they learned. And so everybody has kind of a different, everybody's on the same path, but they think they break away and kind of formulate uh, their own business model based
For
on.
sure.
Um, so you left training. Now you're from what, Pennsylvania, correct? State of
Correct.
Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh, PA. Yep.
Pittsburgh, PA. So when you got back home, what was that first month like?
It was just a lot of, I guess, talking to people, just almost like prospecting to a degree. I really just needed to get my name out there. Obviously, the marketing team did a great job of getting the name out there from like a social perspective with our Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. But most of it was just boots on the ground, me trying to talk to as many people within my network as possible. I
Mhm.
have a pretty predominantly focused real estate network because I do like flips, rentals, things like that. So I knew that that was an area that I needed to focus on. But pretty much from day one, before I even left training, I was already starting to get some leads in that I talked through with quite a few of you, just whether it was with John or Mac or whoever. I'm just
Yeah,
like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, because
yeah, yeah.
I didn't even finish the training yet.
I think that was the other thing that impressed me. That always makes me excited when you're learning the products, and then while the rest of the class goes and starts drinking at the bar, you're in your Rolodex and you're telling people kind of what you do now based
Right.
on that day's content, and you're drumming up business. And I remember you doing that. I think you even cornered me a couple times. Said, "Look, I have this deal. Like, what should I do?" Right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you go to John or Mac and have them help you out. So yeah, you were. That's usually a good telltale sign how you're going to do in this business when you're already in there getting stuff done, as I say.
Yeah, that's it. Because I mean, again, I like to have fun. I like leisure and relax and all that kind of stuff. But like when it comes to something like this, I understand that you need to treat a crumb like a feast sometimes. And how often am I going to get around somebody like yourself? So I need to make sure that I'm trying to get every piece of what I can get from those moments, those conversations, because who knows when I'm going to have that opportunity again.
Yeah,
So it's just I learned that early on, and that kind of stuck with me. So, and I think it served me well for the most part.
yeah. You know what amazes me is throughout the years of doing this, we've had classes that were just partiers. And listen, there's nothing wrong with partying, but
Right.
you're paying good money to be here, and we start when we start. And there's a couple instances where people got a little out of control the night before, and I wouldn't know personally because I hear when I come in at the
Right.
day, and they stumble in at we start at well when we're here in person we start at 8 a.m.
Right.
and they come stumbling in 10, 11 o'clock, and it's like, man, you paid a lot of money to be here, and maybe you're not treating it seriously. I don't know.
Yep.
Ironically, one of those guys has turned out to be a huge graduate in terms of doing volume and stuff. So I don't think it's an exact correlation, but
Right.
yeah, it just amazes me, the people that come through here and how they treat what they're doing here in the time frame that they have with us. Um, so obviously we have different packages. You chose our legacy package, our highest tier, and you know, obviously those are people that don't know. It includes marketing. There's a lot of things involved with that package. But
Right.
what made you guys choose the legacy package?
I would say, I mean, overall, just the wide range of benefits that comes with it. I mean, obviously the full time processing support for like document collection and all that was unbelievably valuable because I mean, just to hire somebody like that off the streets, 40, 50 grand a year. So, I mean,
Yeah,
you start adding things like that up, it can be a lot as you're trying to grow and scale a company. So the fact that that's just included for life is crazy. So I was just like, number one, I can't pass that up. And then the extra amount of leads, obviously I'm still within my first year, let alone my first 2, 3 years,
yeah,
but the leads have been very, very valuable, and I knew that the longer I can have those leads for free, the better.
right.
So I think with the legacy package, it's just you get I think it's like 2, 3 years worth of leads versus
Sure,
just a month or a year.
sure.
So I knew that I was like, from a stability perspective, I'm not getting in this to just try it and fizzle out. Like, I'm in this for the long haul. Begin with the end in mind type concept. So I'm like, I'm making this happen. Like I'm going to win at this, so I might as well stack the deck in my favor. You know what I mean? So it was
Yeah.
like a combination between the marketing support with the pay-per-click leads and all those things combined with that with the full-time processor. It just seemed like it made sense when you look at things very black and white from an ROI perspective. It just, if you're trending out the growth of your business, I mean, within the first two years, probably it pays for it, let alone 5 years, 10 years down the line. So it just made sense.
Yeah. I mean, and this business, as you're discovering, right? Because you've been doing it now for, 6 months. This business is all about, people always say, what's the secret to the business? And as you maybe remember in training, it's about opportunities. The more opportunities you see, the better off you're going to be. And so, that package is really designed around um, doing what you're going to do best, which is going out and finding business. At the same time, us sending leads to you on a monthly basis. And again, it's about seeing opportunities. So when you're out there networking, you have leads coming into you, daily or every other day, um, for 3 years essentially. So
Right. Absolutely. It was just a no-brainer. It made sense.
and so now let's talk about your experience. So you left training. Seems like 30 days after, you're out doing your networking, you're getting your name out there, getting everything set up, but then COVID hits, right? And so,
Crazy.
so here you are, you're a young man, you drop $100,000 on a training, you're excited, you're ready to launch your business, you're all hyped up, and then boom, COVID hits. Tell me about the emotions you felt.
Yeah, I didn't even comprehend the gravity of what that was going to do to the industry or my business in general or anything like that. And I'm very skeptical of these things even being like going to be a significant impact. Like I was just like, all right, everything's going to be fine. I'm the optimist by nature. So I'm just like, it's going to be fine. It's going to blow over.
Right.
Let's just keep moving forward. But then it ended up being, obviously, as weeks went on, we're like, okay, this is actually serious. This is actually shaking up the industry. This is actually closing down certain sectors
Mhm.
of just like businesses in general. So how do we respond to this? But like my personality by nature is not to kind of get overwhelmed or consumed or like dwell within the minutia of things. I'm kind of like a problem solver or a solution finder by nature. So as soon as a problem hits or a shakeup happens, I'm immediately into solution mode of like, okay, so what's the path of least resistance? What's going to get us the most bang for our buck? How can we pivot our model to make sure that this can work? And I just instantly started to go into solution mode of how do we just make sure that this could actually, there could be opportunity in this. There could be upside in this. If you're looking for it, there really could be opportunity in this type of adversity. So that's what I started to look for immediately once I knew it was serious. So
Yeah, you know what? That whole statement you just said, I got to be honest with you, reminds me of me when I was your age, or even younger than your age. I got to tell you, you know, I mean, that's what we did here, right? When COVID hit, I remember um, we had, the governor of New York came out, and when the breakout happened in Westchester, New Rochelle, it was like national news where
mm,
a big hotspot started to develop. And I remember the National Guard went down there, and that's when I said, "Whoa, we better start thinking differently." And I remember my assistant Christina had come up to me, and we had a class coming in March, and she goes, "Should we think about possibly canceling training?" And me, the hard head, I said, "Hell no." I go, "We've
no
never
way.
canceled the
Yeah.
training. Training's on. We're doing it. We're going live."
Yep.
And and she just kind of looked at me like I was a little crazy. And then as literally hours and days progressed, it just went so much downhill that I had to reevaluate things. And I said, "Okay, well, we're gonna have to go virtual."
Right.
I literally had my team get microphones, get HD cameras, literally started a plan and execute it, which is similar to what you said you did. And I think that's just the entrepreneurial mindset, right?
That's
You
it.
dealt with a blow, you got to overcome it, and you just go with a plan. And dude, I remember sending an email to all my employees. Um, it was about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And I did a mass email to everybody. I said, "Look, guys, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll be damned if I'll let this ship sink. and I'm going to do everything in my power to, make sure nobody loses a job and everything like
Absolutely.
that, and kind of rally the team. So,
Love it.
um, yeah, so you had to shift your focus. So tell me about, tell me about that process. I mean, what products did you essentially, I mean, listen, we're talking to somebody here that's only been through this 6 months, but yet the reason you're on here is because you're successful in a short amount of time, which is a huge accolade in itself. So what's the last 6 months been like? Particularly
Yeah.
COVID hit. How did you guys adapt and capitalize on it?
Totally. So again, like with my network being mainly in real estate, I knew that okay, that's still going to get me the most bang for my buck. I need to keep moving forward with real estate, but as you know, real estate in a very large level kind of shut down to a degree for a certain period of time. I think things are really starting to open back up now.
They
Uh,
have, well, that's the secondary market. A lot of firms that will finance stuff and sell it onto the secondary market. We do that. The secondary market kind of slowed down and said, wait a minute, we're going to take a pause until we figure what's going on. So
yep.
that's why that happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was like I took a month or two, probably 30 to 45 days to get a bunch of leads in the process. And I actually had probably two, three, four loans that were in the process of closing that actually fell apart because COVID smacked like right into the center of it. And they were going to be my first loans too. So like I'm like right there about like there was one where we were, I think, like a day and a half to 2 days away from closing, and then they just decided, the lender just decided, we're just putting a halt to everything, even the stuff that's in process. I'm sorry. And we were like 2 days out from closing. Everything was already cleared. Like it was just a matter of funding.
Talk about
So,
talk about adversity, right?
oh
Again,
man,
again, I'm going to remind everybody: you spent 100,000. You went through training, then COVID hit. You had deals in the pipeline. You probably thought to yourself, "Hey, I'm going to close these deals." And then, what, days before they were set to close, it fell through.
that's it. And again, this is my sole, not necessarily my sole income, but this is my full-time thing. Like I walked away. It's not like I was just doing this part-time outside of everything else. Like I doubled down and I was like, all right, I walked away from corporate America. And I was
Hmm.
just like, this is what I'm gonna to hit hard. So it's not like I had these massive, backup plans. This is just kind of a spare time thing.
Right.
I was like, I need to make this work.
Mhm.
And those loans were literally about to pay for my full time everything for that month.
Wow.
But I quickly I realized, I was like, okay, so maybe not the entire industry shut down. Maybe it's just these couple of folks, these couple of lenders that I have been working on these projects. So I did some research. Instantly started to try to figure out, is there anybody else that is still lending and with these particular parameters? The short term, fix and flip type stuff. Is there anybody that is still doing that? And long story short, I was able to actually find two lenders out there that were lending through COVID.
Mhm.
And because I already had the business set up, because I already had the lending relationships and the acumen and all those things, wasn't even a question. I was instantly able to partner with those two lenders and pivot and close multiple transactions. I probably closed 4 to 6 loans in those, probably in the 45 to 60 days after COVID hit,
Okay.
with those lenders, literally just because I went out and just tried to find solutions. And then you combine that with what products are just available that aren't even affected. And one of those was like business credit cards, like unsecured lines of credit. Like if anything, they were booming just as always. Their parameters didn't change at all. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna flood that too, because who doesn't want more unsecured lines of credit? Who doesn't want business credit cards? So I started to focus more of an effort on that as well. Close multiple transactions there, and between those are probably the two biggest, from making some shifts to be able to close some real estate transactions with some lenders, and then some of those unsecured lines of credit, getting those set up. That was able to start to help me build and grow, and not only get through COVID, but kind of grow through it.
And I think it gives support to the fact of you have to be diversified as a commercial loan broker, right? Because let's just say all you knew was real estate or just a certain product segment, you would have been kind of high and dry if you didn't have anything else to resort to.
Yep.
So,
And then the last area that that I used temporarily was the payroll protection program loans.
see.
Those PPP loans, like shifting into that because that was a big need in the market. So we even directed some of our marketing and all those things to say, hey, we can actually, we're partnered with some SBA lenders. We can absolutely help you in kind of this time of need, and we were able to close quite a few transactions with getting folks funded for the PPP. So that was our third thing. And just to validate your point, absolutely, like diversification is everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it again, it sucks for you because at the time, I mean, I said this on previous podcasts that we're going to be releasing some graduates, that this is really the first downturn of a lot of our graduates. We didn't exist in 2008, right? We started in 2009, and I'm certainly, I know I survived two downturns, 9/11 and 2008.
yeah,
And so for pretty much all of our graduates, this was the first kind of hiccup in the commercial loan broker business model that we teach. So here you are coming right into it. It's not like you had good years, right? I mean,
right.
you just came in, boom, you hit a wall. So I just love that story because it defines adversity, and you guys kind of developed a plan of action, and you took initiative to overcome it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't even see it at the time. I mean, I was just reacting. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
now looking back, it's like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like, but when we were in the trenches of it, we were just fighting to make sure that we were going to get through this and be a victor, not a victim. So
Sure.
we just fought for it, and thankfully it all panned out.
Yeah. And like I said, in such a short period of time, 6 months. Most of the graduates we've interviewed so far have been in this for years, right?
Mm.
I think you're the shortest time frame to date of a success story.
That's
So
awesome.
now that you've been doing this for six months, going on 7 months, tell me about. I mean, what's looking back in this time frame? What do you love about the industry? What do you hate about the industry? Because there's got to be some things you hate about it. But let's start with what you love first.
Yeah. Um, well, I love a performance based environment. Like I really do. That's just kind of how I'm wired by nature. I hate the idea of having that salaried position where I'm going to get paid the same amount of my peer next to me, regardless of how hard we work. Like I like the concept of like being paid what you're worth, versus just trading time for money. So long story short, I'm just attracted to this whole world in general of a performance based environment because I feel like that's where I can actually grow
Right.
with no ceilings. So that's probably the first and foremost thing. It's not like I had a passion for finance, I had a passion for banking or anything like that because that's not my background
You didn't have any
whatsoever.
experience. You didn't
None.
have any experience.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's not that necessarily, but I have actually developed a pretty significant passion in the lending world as of now, just because of being in it, of working through it, of seeing some small success in the beginning.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a lot of where passion comes from, anyways. Is after you beat on your craft for a while and you start to develop skill sets and you start to develop knowledge and experience, and now that's something you can actually be passionate about. So I really like the industry as a whole. I like lending, and just the whole world of being able to help somebody accomplish their goals, because that's really what we're doing. At the end of the day, these people are working on projects that they're trying to win at in life, and we're basically fueling those projects. So it's pretty neat when you really look at the grand scheme of things. And I've had multiple clients, sending me pictures and texts of like, the house that they bought, or like, just the appreciation that they have.
Yeah.
And that's something you can get passionate about too, just helping people in that way. So it's really, really cool.
It's about helping people in the end. I always say that it's about helping people. Um, the last 6 months, right? To get those deals in the door. I mean, how would you rank our marketing for you that we're doing? Which is
Good.
it's a lot. It's included in your package. So
Totally.
how would you rate?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been great. I mean, everybody's super responsive. Like I talk to folks on the marketing team all the time, probably to the point where they get annoyed by me. So I'm a very hands-on person. So like I'm the guy that's like writing up a like 20 bullet point notes of like what I want adjusted on the website.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You're one of those guys. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I'm that guy that, because again, I'm very creative by nature. So
Right.
like I have a very specific brand I'm looking for, a very specific thing I'm trying to accomplish. And
Mhm.
again, knowing, I know the marketing world relatively well, and like what attracts people and how to engage an audience and things like that. So I like to be more hands-on in that area, probably more so than most. I'm sure some people are just like, just run it without me. That's not what I want to even think about or specialize in.
You have some people like
Let's
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot to be said about, I'm good at a certain thing, and I just, I'm going to lean on them to focus on their expertise. And I do that because again, they're the experts, but I like to be a little bit of the creative behind the scenes with that too. So,
God,
but they've been phenomenal. They never push back. They're always very welcoming and supportive, and they execute. You know what I mean? Like anytime I've asked them to do something, they've done it to date. There isn't an open item that I have with them right now. I think I finally got my website to the point now. We've still been making adjustments literally for 6 months.
took
And I,
advantage of that lifetime adjustment
yeah.
contract.
So I think I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm actually perfectly happy with my website. I don't think I need any adjustments made. So, but that's 6 months, that's 6 months in. So, but they've been great. They've been phenomenal.
God, I got to tell you, you remind me so much of myself. When I say that, because I annoy everybody here because I have to, I got to put my touch on everything. I'm not a hands-off CEO. I'm a very like, getting involved in certain things. So,
Yep.
but
Same.
it is what it is. It's I think it's a benefit. It's a
Absolutely.
positive attribute. Um, so yeah, you guys are rocking and rolling. So tell me about what do you got going on in back there? That looks like a really cool office setting. Uh, it's an awesome
Yeah.
couch, kind of
Yep.
contrasting with the brick. I mean, so that's your office essentially.
It is, yeah. So one of my good friends, his name's Bobby. He owns this place. He owns a lot of things. He's a
Mhm.
traditional business owner. So he owns real estate, and this is one of the real estate properties that he purchased a couple of years ago. And it was an old beat up church. It had a 10-foot drop ceiling, and it was ugly. But him and his team came in here and they revitalized it. It's absolutely beautiful. And he built this, you can't really see it fully, but he built this loft up above. And that's actually where I usually hang out, is up in this loft right above here. You
Yeah,
can see the steps a little bit behind that go up to it.
yeah.
But it's a really, really cool space here. It's like 5 minutes outside of downtown Pittsburgh, which is another anomaly, to find something like this to call it your own. So,
Yeah.
so I work here. My team works out of here. And we really enjoy it. It's a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, and that's the logo we created for you on your
Yeah.
shirt?
Yep. Yeah. This is my company and my logo. I just got it made onto a shirt.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Um, so, tell me about, um, y you know, what don't you like about the industry? We talked about a lot of things that you like. What's one thing that I always call sucks about the industry? And I'm
Yeah.
always interested to hear your take on that.
For me, it's probably just the amount of people that we ultimately can't help. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people that come to us, and it's just like they have the 500 and 600 credit score, and they really want to make this happen. Or even, whenever we get so far through the process and the deal falls apart. I mean, that's the suck. Obviously, it's not even the grind of like just putting in the work. It's just the
But you
it's just
can't
that.
help everybody.
Exactly. We can't help everybody. We have to understand that it's a numbers game. There's a failure ratio.
Mhm.
You have to go through the number. You have to go through the nose to get to the yeses type concept. So it's part of the suck, but it's just part of the reality of just business in general, not just this business. I mean, I knew that coming into it from my background. So it still sucks. It still stinks to have to turn somebody away or say I can't help you, or get so far and then something falls apart or blows up. But that's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean?
It is. Yeah, and you're not a miracle worker, as I say, right? I mean, you could, as good as you are, which we like to believe our graduates are the best of the best, can't help everybody, right?
Right.
No cash flow, no collateral, no credit. There's not much you can do after that.
Right.
So yeah,
Exactly.
it's tough to say no, particularly when you're new in the business, because that's one problem I see a lot of graduates get into. They just, for the most part, everybody has good hearts, and they
Mhm.
just want to go out and help everybody, and not realize that it's not the best utilization of your time, right? You have to really know what you can do and focus in on those people that you can help and not waste your time with people you can't. Sometimes it's just so tough to say no.
That's it. And that took me a little bit to figure out just of like who I can and who I can't help. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, because again, being new to the industry and everything, I didn't know. So every person that came to me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We can help. Like, let me dive into this. And just because I didn't have that experience or frame of reference to say like, nope, can't help you. Sorry. I didn't have those notches under my belt to be able to, very quickly, like assess the situation and say that. So I would work, every lead that came my way. And even though, now 6 months in, I have the experience to instantly look at a deal and know if it's something that I can do or not. And it obviously saves a ton of time. But in the beginning, yeah, I'm just throwing mud on the wall and see what sticks. I'm just spraying. I'm shotgunning in the dark. You know what I mean? Just hoping that I hit something.
Most people.
Um, but that's just part of the process. Like that's the only way. Like you can only teach us so much. At the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to just having boots on the ground and actually like getting in and getting after it. You know what I mean? And that's where you're going to ultimately learn the most. I mean, you gave us everything that we needed to be able to start to do, but then, it's really up to us at that point to start doing and learning from it.
I do know. One of the things that is very impressive, one of the many things that's impressive about you is I heard some recent exciting news that you're going to try to venture into. If you don't mind telling me what that is, I want to hear it from your own words. And you don't have to get too detailed, but what are you guys trying to segue into? And
Yeah,
again, I'm going to remind everybody, you're only 6 months out of the business, or in the business, I should say, 6 months in business, and you already kind of have some big aspirations coming up pretty quickly. If you want to tell us about that.
absolutely. Yeah, I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by good people, and I've just by nature, if there's one thing that I would say that I'm good at, it's building relationships
Mhm.
and partnering with people. Like it's just something that I've been able to do my whole life, and that's a big reason why I feel like I am where I am today. It's not because I'm awesome, you know what I mean? It's mainly because I've figured out a way to surround myself with good people, and I feel like you're the same way. I'm sure you could speak to that too, since you have all these different companies and there's no way you can do everything yourself. It's a lot about surrounding yourself with the right people. So long story short, I mean, things are and have been growing really well with Prosper Firm. But I really have always had a desire since getting into this of like, how do I start to get into like in-house lending? You know what I mean? Like, how do I make that pivot? Because I'm definitely a person that never just becomes content. I never want to just settle for like where I'm at. I'm like, I'm always looking for the next level. How do we continue to push the envelope? How do we take calculated risks that are going to reward us in the long term? And that's the balance of looking at what's going to reward now versus what's going to reward long term. So the two things that we're looking to start to get into is in-house lending. We're putting all the pieces together to be able to start to do that, and then big real estate projects. I've done flips, rentals, all the small things, but now we're about to start to get into some big development projects, like
Killing it.
50 100 unit projects is our goal, that we should hopefully have start underway in the next month or two.
No,
But both of those.
it took me when I first started a brokerage years ago, 20 going on almost 20 years, 20 plus years. It took me about 8 years, 8 to 9 years to start lending my own money.
Wow.
So the fact that you've been in this 6 months is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and it feels like I've been doing this so much longer. It's crazy. It feels like I've been doing this for at least a year or two.
Mhm.
Like 5, 6, 7 months. It doesn't.
That's just COVID. You're locked
It.
up yeah, that,
I
I think
know. It's crazy, but it is true. I know that it's definitely a fast and aggressive pace, and we're super fortunate and thankful for where we're at and where we're going. But yeah, we have all the pieces in play at this point to start to do in-house lending and development projects. So we're excited about it.
that's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. All right, so what I'd like to do is let's play a little game here. So I'm going to ask you some just kind of off the cuff questions, and we could have some dialogue. And feel free to ask me anything you'd like. I know you know me a
All right.
little bit, and we'll go from there. So let me start with you. Um, what's What's one thing that we normally wouldn't know about Brandon Bartoli?
Um, I would say that a lot of people are, number one, surprised that I'm an introvert, because I can be very social and I can be very engaging and conversational and so on and so forth. But by nature, I would like to be like on a beach by myself, not talking to people. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's just kind of how I am by nature. Like I'm much more of an introvert, but uh,
COVID was a blessing for you.
it
Pretty.
was. I didn't mind it at all. I thought it
Yeah,
was awesome.
I know.
So
I know. I did
the
the same thing. Like
yeah.
I have an hour drive from my home to the office, and I'm an office guy going to the office. In fact, we just got into a brand new office. Um,
I heard that's awesome.
yeah, about one of the only companies that's getting into a bigger and larger, nicer office. Um, I loved it because you could speed down the highway, and I'm a big car guy. I mean, you could speed down the highway. The cops weren't pulling anybody over. You know, no radar was going off, and it
Yep.
was like you're driving in an apocalypse. Nobody's out, and
Yep.
I loved it. And now all of a sudden, when traffic is starting to come back, I'm like, God damn! Like, I don't like this.
Exactly.
I like talking.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh's the same way. I mean, being in Pittsburgh, it's not the largest city in the country, but it's very densely populated in a small area, you know, just based on the geographic, like with the three rivers coming together and everything's very centralized and dense. So we have pretty bad traffic and there's just none of it anymore. And I love it. Like, cause I live pretty much in the city. I live in a town called the Strip District, which is the town right outside of downtown. It's
Mhm.
very up and coming and everything like that. And usually it would be a nightmare trying to get in and out, but it's been awesome. I can get anywhere, like any mall, any place, anywhere within like 15 to 20 minutes. It's phenomenal. I love it.
Cool. That's really cool. If you weren't doing this, if you never found CCTG, they didn't know who we were, what would you be doing right now, you think? Besides at the
Um,
beach, isolating yourself from everybody.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Well, so my first business that I decided to pursue, or it really kind of came upon me, as I'm sure it does for most people in this industry, is my first business was a network marketing business. I actually got started in the Amway business when I was, I think, 20, 21 years old. I was still in college. Thought I was just going to do the corporate track, and that business actually really turned me on to entrepreneurship and personal development and all those types of
Well,
things.
and let me stop you
Um,
right there. One little fun fact is what, when you were 21, you were, I have here, you were rated top 1% of sales in the company. Is that
yeah, so I got started at like 2021, and I think by the age of 25, I hit a level in that business that very few people do. It's probably like 1% or so.
wow?
It's a full time income, you know, making a completely full time. I was actually making more in the business at 25 than I was at my full time job in corporate,
Mhm.
and that's what afforded me to be able to get out of debt, build my leadership abilities, build my people skills. That's really what kind of groomed me to be ready for corporate. So that's when I started to get into consulting. I became a low level executive. I became an executive probably by 29. I think I was like 20, 28, 29 years old when I became an executive in healthcare. But a lot of that was started through that business, which I still have today, is kind of like a cash flowing asset. So if it wasn't for, just to answer your question, if it wasn't for y'all and connecting with you guys, I probably I would definitely still be doing that. Maybe hitting that even harder, and then real estate. You know, because again, I do flips, rentals, all that. I knew that I wouldn't have. I didn't stay in corporate. I wasn't going to stay in corporate. I was just not. I didn't want to be there forever. It was just a kind of a stepping stone to help me, you know, get out of debt, bank money, to be able to do things that I wanted to do. I never saw it as a long-term gain. It was just a stepping stone. But I would probably just be building that business and then doing real estate projects. That's probably where I'd be at, just grinding away at those things, which I'm still doing. But
Yeah, yeah.
um,
But see, now you could be actually, I would argue, to be more successful at it now, because now you already know the money part, and that's the most important part. I can't
absolutely,
tell you
and
how many real estate guys are like, God, I can do this, but I just need to find the money. You know,
yep,
the money, capital is always like the common problem.
it is in real estate by far. That's the number one thing is capital. You know what I mean? So this piece of the puzzle was vital to the larger strategy of being able to not just do the little single family home that, you know, I buy for, because I did a flip where I bought it for 20 grand, put 40 grand into it, then sold it for 160. and I just sold that like a week ago. You know what I mean? So like it's a good profit and everything,
Yeah.
but that's still a small game. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do these little projects forever. And the only way to get into bigger projects is with financing. You know,
Capital.
I can do cash deals with, you know, $20,000 houses, but I'm not doing cash deals with a $5 million development project. You know what I mean? So so this piece of the puzzle is absolutely vital to get us to where we want to go. So
You got so much going on. You're not married, correct?
no,
Okay. You have no kids?
nope.
Okay. Don't do either of those for a while because it's gonna. Listen, don't get me wrong. It's all good, but don't let anything slow you down, man.
Yep.
You know that
Yep. No, that's it. I'm just
can
trying to
lose the
stay.
focus.
Yeah, I'm 31 years old. I'm trying to stay focused on my goals and everything I'm trying to accomplish, so that whenever it's time to get married,
Yeah.
um, that you know everything's already set up, everything's taken care of, and we can just actually like travel and do the things that we want to do versus just trying to, you know, grind for a paycheck. You know what I mean?
Good plan. Good plan. I have here that you were another little fun fact. You were the first in your family to actually graduate college.
Yeah. So that was part of just my background in general of
Yeah.
like how we already talked in the beginning about, you know, my supportive parents and everything like that. They're both phenomenal. And but they're both very more blue collar. My dad's a mechanic. He's worked on cars his whole life. His older brother was a mechanic. His dad was a mechanic. Like I came from a family of cars and mechanics. And I know you're a car enthusiast. So I know you can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But that was my family. My mom was a teller at a bank. I think she might have got an associate degree from a local community college, but I don't even know that she finished. I don't know exactly, but I've always been told like they were like, you're going to college. It's not even an option.
You're doing
Like
it.
this is something you have to do. And they kind of bred me in that way. Like one short example is like my whole family has been excited about cars. But my dad deliberately, he knew that if I worked with him, that I would get into that industry too. So he deliberately didn't teach me stuff. Like I didn't even know how to change my oil or anything like that as
Wow.
a kid growing up because he deliberately wouldn't teach me because he knew that if I started to get into it, that I would follow in that path and he wanted something different for me. So still to this day, like I don't change my oil. I don't know any of that stuff.
Right. 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 Wow. Well, you know, it's interesting because I didn't graduate college. I dropped out. I'm the first one in my family. I have two older brothers that didn't graduate college.
Wow.
It's kind of the exact opposite, but still the first, I guess, right?
I love it.
Good to be first
Um,
in something.
I
Um,
love it.
all right. So listen, I'll give you the quick time here. Ask me anything, any questions that you're curious about or questions about myself.
Yeah, so I got a couple, some more serious, some not. But the one thing that I heard, you might have mentioned this before, but I've been told that you really started off in boxing, which I thought is kind of interesting. I don't know how many people know that about you, and I
Yeah.
don't know that much. I'd love to hear more, but tell me about this like boxing career experience that you had and how that came to be, and then because that was even prior to you getting into the finance world, correct?
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. God. And if, yeah, I mean, if I was still in it, my face would be horrendous. So I wouldn't be doing the podcast, but yeah. So I wouldn't really call it a career, but you know, growing up, we didn't grow up with a lot of money. I came from a very poor family, and you know, to kind of one thing though, my father always set in stone is you got to do activities. You got to do activities, and he put me in this local program at the Boys and Girls Club,
Hmm.
and that was literally a couple blocks up from where we lived. And you know, I liked basketball, but I suck at it. You know, I can't make a hoop for anything. I mean,
Yep.
I love to play. I try to play, but I'm not good at it. And the only other thing to do there at the time was boxing.
Hmm.
And you know, I'm the youngest out of three, so I always was kind of a scrapper. I always had to kind of, you know, fight my way to get that last piece of chicken leg that's left over on the platter for my older brother. And so I was always faced with adversity just in the hierarchy of a family, if you will. And so I decided to take up boxing. And I think I first started doing it when I was about 7 years old. And that carried all the way on till I was
Wow.
about maybe 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
And so,
That's a
yeah,
long time.
it is a long time. And not that, it never really went anywhere. It was just something that I enjoyed doing, and it taught me a lot of discipline. It taught me a lot of preparation, just in life in general.
Absolutely.
And it also taught me that you can get your ass knocked out. You never you never underestimate anybody. Doesn't matter how big they are, how small they are, what you think they are. It's at the end of
Yep.
the day, you just, you never know. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and to this day, I don't do it anymore, but I try to do some routines in terms of a workout as best as I can, because as you know,
Love
you
it.
sit on your butt all day.
That's it.
That's what this job entails. But yeah, I still try to have some type of relation to it.
That's awesome. And I love that because there's so many people that can direct, like most people direct a lot of life lessons from like their sports experiences,
Right.
like as kids or as young adults. I mean, there's so many. I feel like that there's definitely so many correlations and stuff like that from whenever we played sports as kids, that we learned certain aspects of work ethic and discipline and focus and like whatever it would be, that I'm sure translates to us being empowered or equipped to be able to succeed in the business world. You know what I mean?
Totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
it.
What else?
Okay, cool. So that was one.
Okay.
Um, I would say whenever you made, I guess the big, what were the big, I guess, levels up, so to speak, whenever you were growing your businesses, your companies, because you've always been entrepreneurial. You told that story about when you started selling cards like at your dad's expos or whatever, and there's
Cards,
just
yeah. Yeah.
you've always been an entrepreneur, and but like as you started to really get into the business world, what were the different like big significant moments, the defining moments, or those leveling up moments, like say where you moved from brokering to in-house lending, or you moved from doing what you're doing working with like one lender to now having a portfolio of lenders? Like what were those big defining moments that helped you level up in your career?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And I think there's a couple for me. I mean, one of them, as you said, I mean, I started this business out of my home. I told this on another podcast, so I don't want to reiterate it, but literally out of a dingy apartment. Um, but I think one of the first moments is when I actually moved into a real office, and it was a small office, right? And it's just
Mhm.
like, wow, okay, here I was in a dingy apartment, and now I kind of have this little office. That
So
was one moment early on.
totally.
The other moment was when I started growing a team and just watching that grow. And as I profess in class how to do that, right? You remember, I think it was Friday that where we go into that segment, how to grow your business with a team. And
Yep.
exact same thing that I did. And once I'm sitting back and I'm looking at, wow, I got 10 people that are originators for me. That was a big accomplishment. Um, Going from broker to lender was huge. And I think it's not so much about the moment of what it is. It's about that you set your mind to something, right? You
Mhm.
have a goal in mind and you put an action plan to get there,
That's
right?
it. Yep.
And once you achieve that, there is no greater feeling in this world. There just isn't. Um,
I
it- it-
agree.
Once you see that develop, and that's happened, you know, I try to emulate that time and time again going forward. It's like, hey, I want to create a marketing company. How cool would it be to create a marketing company, right? And then eventually we did it, and it's like, holy shit, I have a marketing company, and it takes a while to adjust to that. Like I remember when I first created a marketing company here, the Finance Marketing Group. Um, I was talking to somebody and I'm like, man, we got to send that email to that firm to change our website. And they're like, what do you mean? We have people here to change it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We have our
Whoops.
in-house people to change it, and just because I was so used to outsourcing everything
Right.
back in the day.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then like, our association, the NACLB is another
Yeah.
one where, hey, let's create a first ever association for commercial loan brokers. And people told me it was crazy and you're nuts of mixing all these products into one place. And then having all the naysayers and actually doing it and have it coming together, no greater feeling in the world. So, for me, I think it's about um, reaching those goals that you have, no matter how small or how large they are, and then seeing that action plan, following it through until when it actually happens. It didn't, for instance, our association, it didn't hit me until we're there at an opening cocktail reception, our first ever one 6 years ago at the Red Rock in Las Vegas. And I'm sitting there with everybody that helped me put it on, and the cocktail party's going on and everybody's networking. And I just took a moment for myself. I look back and I go, wow, like these people wouldn't even be meeting unless it was for, my staff and everybody that kind of pulled together
Yeah,
and made this happen. So
that's awesome.
those were big moments of in my career, all the way down from, moving from home to office to creating an actual entity for me.
I love it. That's so awesome. And that actually triggered another question that I've had for you for a long time
Yeah.
since I got to know you, that you've kind of alluded to there, which is you have got really good at kind of empowering people and finding the right people and everything. Because again, when you have multiple companies, like it's impressive enough just to have one successful company. Like that's very impressive. To have like a half dozen very successful companies is unheard of. You know what I mean? So you obviously need to get good at not just being everything at all times. Even though you have your hand in everything,
Yeah.
you've obviously got good at not only identifying the right people, but empowering them. So I would love to learn like where you learn that or how you learn that. If there's any resources that you've dove into that were just critical to your leadership development process. But I would love to hear that.
Um, it's first of all, not everything's successful. There were some things that I've tried that didn't come to fruition. So it's you ever see that picture of, it's like a classic motivational picture. You see the iceberg, right?
Mhm.
You see the
Yep.
little tip of it,
Yep.
but you don't see what's underneath. It's kind of the same thing. There were a lot of things I've tried throughout the years that, had big plans for that didn't come to fruition. And I think in the game of being an entrepreneur, it's about taking those swings, right?
Right.
You can't be scared to go up the bat and take the swing. And some you're going to hit base hits, and some you're going to hit home runs, and some you're going to hit grand slams. And the more times you get up the bat, the more times it's going to happen.
That's it.
So it's not like everything I touch automatically is a success. What you see now is a result of many trial and error and things like that. But to answer your question, it's not about me, it's about the team, right? And I always say you're only as good as your team. And I think part of that is finding the right people that fit an attitude or culture that you have.
Hmm.
I've been around the game long enough to know that we don't have a lot of turnover here, thank God, but not everybody that has signed up to work for all of my companies are still here. I mean,
Sure.
a lot of them are, and I think the ones that aren't just were never a good culture fit. And
Hmm.
you're going to have to go through that, even in your business, right? Whatever culture you put into place that you develop, one of the things I think that's helped me and my companies is finding the right people that buy into what you're doing and the culture. And because sometimes you can get somebody that's really talented, super talented, but if they don't have the mindset of your culture, it's never going to work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely never going to work. And so, people, I get that question a lot, like, wow, you got a good team, and how'd you cultivate them? And it's like, it's really in that interview process, kind of getting an instinct, and you'll know. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of doing that yet with your business model of bringing on people, but when you interview people, you'll just know whether you get a good gut feeling whether they're gonna fit or not, regardless of their skill, just in terms of the attitude and the mindset.
That's it. That makes total sense. Yeah, I can relate a little bit to that with again building a network marketing business of over 100 people, and churning through tons of folks to find the right folks that we actually want to work with.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest things that I realized too was it's all about culture. It's all about finding people that think the way that you do, that buy into your vision, that all that stuff. Those are the folks that are worth investing into and spending time with. Everybody else will just kind of come and go. And if all they're looking for is a paycheck, you're never going to have that person long term.
No,
So,
no,
so good. Love
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, everybody here is really a team effort, and you got to take care of them too. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'll do one other question. Mentor. So, if you could sit down with somebody and pick their ear for an hour, dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm.
Dead
Um,
or alive?
There's a couple of people, but just
One.
based on where I'm at right now, it would probably be like a Warren Buffett.
Okay.
Mainly because of like just the world that we're excited about getting into with lending and so on and so forth. I mean, this guy seems to be pretty calculated in his decisions. He's seems to be willing to take risks, but a lot more conservative by nature
Right.
and very strategic, very researched, and very stable and consistent. There's the firework people that have risen to crazy amounts of success very quickly, and that's great. Nothing against that. But you don't know if that's going to stand the test of time versus somebody like him who's towards the end of his career,
Sure.
and he has that decades and decades of experience of investing, of working real estate, of getting into so many different things, diversifying. He would probably be a great person to pick his brain. So
I'd agree. Yeah. That's a good choice. Really good choice. All right. So Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, you're busy. A lot of things are going on. Thanks so much for being on this show. A lot of the stuff you said is useful information for people looking into our program, especially being 6 months out and dealing with COVID. I really want to thank you, and I wish you continued success, and so happy you're part of our family.
thanks, Kris. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the offer to be here. If you need anything at all, let me know because you've helped me out a ton. Happy to help out the team as well.
Thank you so much. All right, so that's our podcast episode here for entrepreneurs in finance. We'll catch you next time. Thank you. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.